The minor league season is coming down to an end here, so it's time to check things in with the AA Chattanooga Lookouts taking on the Tennessee Smokies, who are going to be throwing a member of the Season 1 Chattanooga Lookouts roster in Sam McWilliams. Take a look at the lineup he'll be facing on the day listed 1-2-9, as well as the lookout starter on the day, the right-hander Alec Willis, making his 27th start. So we'll start things off here, bottom half of the first inning, and it's going to be Bryce Ball hitting a ball into right center field. This one's going to get down up against the wall and hop over the wall, actually. So a ground rule double there with 2 outs for Ball brings up Cassie, and he draws himself a walk. So first and second here with 2 outs for the Smokies, and Akame then grounds out to shortstop as Jose Torres flashes the left there and makes the play to get out of the inning. Move things on, bottom of the second. It is Levi Jordan blooping one into right field. Hendrick dives but cannot make the catch, so it's going to be a double for Jordan. He trots into second base, but then Willis does get the right-handed Ramiro to whiff through that 12-6 curveball, a nasty pitch for the final out of the inning. So top of the third now, it is David Westbrook drawing himself a 2-out walk, so he's on first with his speed, and then Bruno Enriquez lays down a beautiful bunt here, gets over to first base as well. So first and second here brings up Austin Hendrick, who rips one past the diving glove of the first baseman. Westbrook rounds and heads home as he scores, and then Hendrick moves up into second base. So 2 on, both in scoring position here for Triana. He gets plunked, and now the bases are drunk here for the Lookouts. And it brings up Marco Palacios, who then fights one off into right field. That's going to land in and score 2 runs on the bloop single as the Eyeballs take a 3-0 lead here. Unfortunately, then Trey Sweeney would line one out to center field as the inning comes to an end, but not before the Lookouts add 3 on the board. So then bottom half of the frame, it is Machado going down on a nasty 12-6 breaking ball, and then it would be Cassie hitting ball to deep left center field, and Jay Allen shows off the speed and the range to secure the catch and end the inning. So now on to the bottom half of the fifth. Jose Torres showing off the defense once again on the run, fires over to first, perfect out, and then later on in the inning, it would be a diving play, the flip to second base, absolutely fantastic play from the former NC State Wolfpack shortstop. Take a look at this one once again. Ground ball, makes the diving stop, and then while on the ground, tosses barehanded to first base, and it's going to be the force out. So then Yandel Gustave, another former Reds farmhand, comes on for the Smokies, and he's going to give up a double down, or a single down the line to Triana here. Thought about 2, but holds up at 1. And then it brings up Palacios, who hits a ball down to left center field. This one just keeps carrying until it's over the wall onto the concourse. A 2-run blast from the power bat of the catcher, Marco Palacios, puts the Chattanooga Lookouts up 5-0. Now on to the 6th. That's going to be a ground ball up the middle for Akame to lead off the inning. Then it will bring up Preciado, and he works a full count and then smacks one out to left field. So back-to-back base knocks for the Smokies. Here with nobody out in the inning, Alec Willis, there you see his line on the day, and that would be the line that he is on the line for, I should say, as Eric Ryder will come into the game now here with 2 on, nobody out, trying to keep the 0 in the earned runs column for Willis, and he would proceed to work a 4-6-3 double play. So immediately 2 outs, now runner on third, brings up Jordan, who goes down swinging to end the 6th inning. Move things on to the 7th now. Ryder still on the hill, works a ground ball, and Williams goes to second with it. Torres the first, a 4-6-3 double play, beautifully turned by Williams and Torres. Now we move things on to the top of the 8th, where the big man Dakota Meckes comes on here for the Smokies, and he would give a pitch right to Austin Hendrick that he sends into the right field seats. A solo shot off the bat of the power-hitting right fielder. Austin Hendrick makes it a 6-0 Eyeballs lead. Now it's Andres Lozano who comes on in the 8th inning here for the Lookouts, and he's going to get a ground ball from Akame around the horn, started by Trey Sweeney, double play to get out of the inning. So scoreless frame for Lozano, then Hubert Hammond came on for the 9th inning in a non-save situation. and he would proceed to get himself into a bit of a jam here as Preciado grounds one over to shortstop. Torres does make the insane play on him, but then with one out in the inning, it would be Nwogu who grounds one up the middle. That is a base knock. So it's a runner on first base here. One out for the Smokies brings up Levi Jordan, who hits one over the head of Bruno Enriquez in left field here. Made a wrong move. Came in before he went out as it gets over his head. So second and third here with one out. Then a fly ball to deep center field. It's going to get over the head of Jay Allen. That is a Ramiro two-run double, makes it a 6-2 ball game here. So runner on second base with one out, and Liberato is also going to double. He goes down the left field line here into the corner. That scores a run. It's now a 6-3 ball game. And Hubert Hammond will come out of the game. Dylan Coleman will enter for him, trying to close the game out. And he picks up his 44th save as he's going to get a fly out from Machado here for out number 2. And then for the final out of the ball game, it is Bryce Ball who just pops one up to the third baseman Sweeney as the Lookouts hold on as they win this game by a score of 6-3 here on the road over the Cubs AA affiliate in the Tennessee Smokies. Your player of the game went to Marco Palacios, the catcher on the day, went 2 for 4 with a home run and 4 runs driven in. Austin Hendrick had a home run on the day as well. Jay Allen went 2 for 4 at the dish with a double and 2 stolen bases. And then Alec Willis had a very solid 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, but no runs given up for the Eyeballs. Tennessee put up 13 hits on the board, but they could not outscore the Lookouts. So now it is time to take a look at how our players here in AA Chattanooga have done this season. First one up on the docket is the center fielder Jay Allen, who unfortunately got off to a really slow start to the season. Not a great overall year for him in AA. He's ending the year on a hot streak though, so that is something encouraging, but just overall not a great year. He does continue to make steady gains though with his ratings. His contact versus lefties went down 1 though, but he did make a big jump in that last year, so not really too affected by that. While David Westbrook just continues getting on base, stealing bags, but really not much else. Not hitting for average, not hitting for doubles, just getting on base and stealing bags. Got a good boost to his plate skills here, +4 to both vision and discipline. Then we have Michel Triana, who is back to being one of the best bats in AA South this year. 834 OPS, 16 home runs, and 22 doubles for the big first baseman. Will surely be in AAA next season. I don't know what his ceiling is here in this organization, but I do think he's an interesting player to have in the system nonetheless. Nonetheless, I should say. And then there was Austin Hendrick, who was the guy who also got off to a slow start here, but has rebounded quite well. The second half of his season has been very solid, finishing the year with an 8. Or not finishing, he still has a few games left, but an 808 OPS, 14 home runs, 19 doubles, and 13 swiped bags. Very solid all-around hitter is Michael Hendrick. Ratings keep improving, good defender, some speed. He's going to get some serious consideration for a big league spot next year on the roster. Then there was Joe Mack, who just didn't really have the greatest season. He just needs to keep developing, though. Trey Sweeney is a guy who I keep saying he's going to get a prospect profile, and he will 100% be getting one early next season. So with that being said, didn't really hit well this year, only a sub 700 OPS, but he's still interesting enough of a player for him to get a prospect profile next season. And then there's Jose Torres, who has not been hitting here in AA really at any portion of the time of this season, but he's still just a very interesting player to me in the organization. He's just such an elite level defender. You saw him make a bunch of really nice plays in the actual game. He could easily end up being like a Denny Hechavarria type player where he just plays some really elite level shortstop. And then he's got a decent contact bat and vision as well, to where he's probably not going to strike out a bunch. Just put the ball in play, and maybe a couple of years he lucks out with some BABIP luck. Then there was Alika Williams, who was our second baseman. We signed him in the offseason. He was actually the Rays' first-round pick in 2020. They just did not bring him back in the organization, so we picked him up in the offseason. He's actually been a solid bat for us here this year, a 7.72 OPS. Definitely more of a second baseman than a shortstop. I'll probably be changing his primary to second next season. Has some very interesting contact plate skills. So definitely a guy that I'm keeping my eye on in the organization. And then there's Marco Palacios, who you saw in the game. He's an extremely intriguing prospect. Whoever drafted him just did not bring him back, so we signed him in the offseason. Didn't produce really much in 253 ABs this year, but he has some interesting ratings, lots of pop in his bat. Not much else offensively, though, just he can run into a few. And just a very good defensive catcher with 83 reaction, 82 blocking, very solid. Horrible arm, though, not going to throw out many runners. But I mean, we have Austin Barnes in the big leagues. He's a guy who also does not have a great arm. And then last but not least among the bats we're going to go over is Bruno Enriquez, and he is a guy who I like quite a bit. Never really going to hit for power, though. He's a very old-school type player. 280 average, 348 OBP, and 132 ABs this year. Limited time in Double-A, but he is a guy who I like when looking at his ratings. Low 60s contact already, 77 vision, 65 discipline, 86 drag bunt. So just a very old school player who's going to lay down some bunts, get some base hits that way, slap the ball all over the field. 59 speed, but 71 steal rating, so he's going to swipe a few bags here and there. Defense in general is only pretty mediocre, but he does have a 74 reaction, which can make up for it quite a bit. And then his defense isn't to the point like where Westbrook's is, like really only like a season or two, and he could probably be like a 60 overall, or a 60 fielding rating. Definitely never going to be a center fielder, but absolutely could be a left fielder type guy. He's a switch hitter, only 19 years old, see potential, absolutely a player we're going to be keeping a close eye on. And then we move things over to the pitching side of things. There's Stuart Bradshaw, who will 100% be getting a prospect profile very early next season. Been very solid in Double-A this year. Total Chad innings eater. More on him on the prospect profile, obviously. Then there's Freddie Jones, who's a guy who got a prospect profile earlier this season, and he's one of our many, many good pitchers in Double-A this year. Just a lot of really good pitching for the Chattanooga Lookouts. Mid-3 ERA and FIP, 8K per 9, a 1 walk per 9, very solid age 19 season for him. Then there was Landon Marceau, who had the best WAR among pitchers on the Chattanooga Lookouts baseball team. 3.06 ERA, 3.26 FIP, been very impressive, should be in AAA next season. Then we have Alec Willis, yet another great pitcher in Double-A, 3 ERA and FIP, still only 21 years old. Hubert Hammond, so many good pitchers that he spent a year in the bullpen despite being a solid starter, and he had a good year in the bullpen. 2.43 ERA, 3.20 FIP, a 1 walk per 9. Took him with the competitive balance pick in last year's draft. Very solid all-around pitcher, 18 years old out of Alabama, see potential. Lots of movement on all his pitches. I like his outlook a lot. Then there's Eric Ryder, one of the guys that I have penciled in for a prospect profile next season. He came over in the James Paxton to San Diego trade along with Ryan Weathers. He spent the year in the bullpen, was very good, just like Hammond. Then there was Ethan Small, who was pretty bad in AAA for us this season, pretty good in Double-A. The thing is, he's 27 years old, so he should be good in Double-A. But the thing is, if he can't hang in AAA, probably not going to really fare well for him at any level. Well, we also have Dylan Coleman down in Double-A, who is definitely an older guy for Double-A, but the thing about him is he's not in Double-A because he can't hang in AAA. He's in Double-A because we just don't have enough room in AAA for him. Been absolutely shoving as the closer down in Chattanooga, throws 100 miles an hour. If you remember, we got him from Kansas City as just kind of a depth reliever option when we traded Brandon Drury to them in Season 1. And then there was Ethan Lindau, who spent the year in the bullpen, was a solid lefty in the bullpen, only 37.2 innings pitched, though. Now let's check things in with the AAA club, the Louisville Bats, as they're going to be playing the Toledo Mud Hens. They have a woman in Uggs throwing out the first pitch. And on the hill today for the Bats will be the left-hander Kent Emanuel making his 29th start. And opposing him will be Invaldo Rodriguez making his 31st start for the Mud Hens. We'll start things off top half of the first inning. It is Jake Fraley here with 1 out. And he spits on that ball 4 and he'll take his base, doing what he does best, working the count. So So he's on first base, brings up Johnny Fagan, who hits one down the left field line, but it's going to be caught on the dive from the left fielder. And then the runner Fraley gets caught because he just thought that was going to get down into the corner. Instead, he gets doubled up on the bases. So move things on bottom of the first now, where Emmanuel had it working. He strikes out Packard, looking a pair of shoes up there, and then it brings up Martinez, who whiffs through the sinker. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Emmanuel. Move things on to the second now. Derek Fisher ground ball over to third base, and Nolan Jones cannot make the play, commits the error over there in the hot corner. As the runner reaches, now with 1 on and nobody out, brings up Palacios, who is going to hit one into the right center field gap. This one's going to get up against the wall, or not quite up against the wall, but cut off by Merced. Runner moves up to third base, so now 2 in scoring position here, as then Emmanuel gives up a line drive into center field from Matt Davidson. That's going to score 1 run, but then Palacios is cut down as the secondary runner there, so only 1 run comes in, and then Emmanuel would give up a deep fly here to right field. Fraley ranging back, he gives it a leap at the wall and brings it back into the ballpark. Nothing else will be going in the inning as Fraley manages to keep 2 runs off the board there by robbing that home run. Take another look on the replay here. The not usually great defensive Fraley makes a great defensive play. Brings it back in. Like I said, keeps 2 runs off the board. So now on to the bottom of the third. And the Mud Hens go back to hitting. Packard grounds one up the middle. That's a base knock. After him, it's Martinez. He's going to go out to right field. That's another single. So back-to-back base knocks here for the Mud Hens. With 1 out, brings up Derek Fisher, and he rips the ball into right field. That's going to move up all the runners and score 1 from third base as he just barely gets around the tag there to score and make it a 2-0 Mud Hens lead. So now first and second, line drive right at Cody Hosey, who makes the snag for out number 2. And then Matt Davidson comes up and grounds out to Hosey as well, who fires it across the diamond. And it's 2-0 Mud Hens. Move things on top of the fourth. Johnny Fagan not going to get robbed of extra bases this time. This one's going to get down into the gap off the bottom of the left center field wall. Easy 2-bagger there to keep the inning alive. Brings up Ken Suzuki, but he just pops up a good pitch to the shortstop, so nothing going for the Bats. Move things on top of the fifth now. Matt Theis on the dish, runner going in Gilliam. He strikes out, and Gilliam's thrown out. The old strike him out, throw him out double play to end the inning for the Mud Hens. How about some more Bats action here at the dish? Top of the sixth, Evan Mendoza finally gets a hit here. They get on base. So leading off the inning there, then Hosey tries to lay down a bunt, and instead they're going to be able to get nobody. So everybody is safe here. So first and second, nobody out. Merced then lays down a bunt. They go to second with it, but they're not able to double up the speedy Merced. So runners on the corners here with 1 out. And then Merced goes and swipes second base. 2 runners are now in scoring position here for the Bats, and Jake Fraley is at the dish. He would proceed to ground one over to first. No runners come in, though. So now it's 2 on, 2 outs. 2-0 count to Johnny Fagan. He rips one into left field, but it's going to be right at the left fielder. And that is put away, so still no runs here for the Bats. Move things on. Bottom of the sixth, Matt Davidson, the power-hitting first baseman, goes into the right center field gap. Easy 2-bagger, even with his speed, or lack of, I should say. And then it's going to be a ground ball up the middle. It is Pacheco that gets batted down by Hosey, but he has no play, so runners on the corners here. And Cruz grounds one over to shortstop. Hosey gets the runner at second, but no play at first. Run comes in. It's now 3-0 Mud Hens. They would take that lead into the top of the ninth inning, where Rodriguez was still on the hill with 2 outs. Nolan Jones keeps the game alive here, trying to get more base runners, but Isaiah Gilliam just chops one up the first baseline, and the pitcher makes the play to end the game. And Valdo Rodriguez completely shut down this Louisville Bats lineup as the Mud Hens win this game by a score of 3-0. Like I said, Rodriguez absolutely shoved on the day. Player of the game honors, complete game shutout, gave up 8 hits, struck out 2 batters, but just got the job done. Emmanuel went 6 innings, gave up 10 hits, struck out 4, walked no one, only gave up 2 runs, but it wasn't enough as the Bats were not able to score a single one on the day despite the 8 hits. So now let's take a look at how our players actually performed down in AAA Louisville this season. The first one up is Johnny Fagan, and you may notice that I am pronouncing his name a different way because the more I realize it, his name is probably Fagan, not Fegan, so he's Johnny Fagan. Hit machine, just a total hit machine in AAA. 297, 364, 460 slash line. That's a 794 OPS. Very solid. 28 doubles, 10 home runs, 12 stolen bases. He is absolutely a top candidate to be a first baseman or a DH for us next season on the big league roster. Then there was Isaiah Gilliam, who had a good season. He's a guy who just continues to play well in the minor leagues, but the thing about him, and just a lot of these guys that we have in AAA, is that there's probably going to be a lot of changes to our AAA roster next year. A lot of the guys from AA are going to be moving up to AAA. A lot of the guys from AAA are probably going to get being moved on from in the offseason, just not brought back. And Gilliam is probably going to be one of those guys. Like, he's a good bat, but the thing about him is he really can't field, not good enough to keep around, really, but just a lot of guys similar to him in the system. Mark Colesberry had another decent season as a catcher in AAA. Evan Mendoza was a guy we brought in the offseason. He's been okay. He has some really good hitting ratings, and I was expecting him to be much better. He was a guy that I was possibly going to call up at some point, but just wasn't really good enough for me to do that. And then there's Nolan Jones, arguably the most disappointing player in our entire organization, just really starting to look like he's a quad A player. Just can't produce in the bigs, but rakes in AAA. Then there's Adrian Merced, who didn't really put up numbers like I would expect him to in the big leagues or AAA this season, especially with how his ratings are, but still I like him as a player quite a bit. Matt McClain, yet another bad season in AAA, finishing the year on the IL too, just not looking good for him. Ken Suzuki, extremely interesting guy we picked up in the offseason. Player that was drafted by the CPU team, just didn't bring back in their organization. So he started out with us in AA, absolutely raked down in Chattanooga, and then he came up to AAA. Also absolutely raked for Louisville. Somehow went down with his rating and contact and power against right-handed pitching, but still very good overall. See potential guy, solid bat with contact and pop, very good plate skills, excellent base runner. Unfortunately, the knock on him is that he is so bad at defense that he really can't even be a first baseman. He's just 100% a DH. Some pretty not great durability, too, at 52. Not the worst I've seen, but also definitely not ideal either. Still a very intriguing player to have. And then there was Jake Fraley, who just had a good season as a bench bat mainly, but probably going to be a guy we move on from in the offseason just because he's getting up there in like the 30s. I think he's like very late 20s. Probably never really going to get a shot in the big leagues for us, so just going to move on from him, open up some spots in our minors. And then there was Matt Theis, who didn't really have the best numbers in AAA, got on base, not much else. Well, on the pitching side of things, there was Tanner Tully, who had a solid year, but he's definitely going to be a guy we're going to be making a decision on the offseason. We just don't know if he's going to be back or not, mainly because we have Kent Emanuel, who is a guy who had a very impressive season in AAA. Basically, they're very similar pitchers, him and Tully, so it's just going to come down to a decision of who do I want more, Kent Emanuel or Tanner Tully. While Mitch Keller is a guy who had fantastic numbers in AAA and just been awful in the big leagues when he got a shot. Still young enough to be intriguing to keep around his depth, though, but also has plenty of team control. But yeah, definitely not fantastic to see his numbers in the big leagues this year. Then there was Peyton Battenfield, who had an okay year, 4 ERA and FIP, 115 innings pitched, most of them spent out of the bullpen. Logan Allen wasn't as good as we hoped in the big leagues. Had a fine AAA season, though. Nothing too special. He'll be 26 years old next year. Jarrett Ross, another guy with good numbers in AAA, bad numbers in the big leagues. It just seems like none of our pitching prospects are really able to make that jump of being like a good AAA pitcher to being even like a serviceable major league pitcher. While Chase Petty is a guy who we would like to see make that jump quite soon. Solid in AAA, nothing too crazy though. Probably starts next year in AAA too, but will absolutely be an option to come up at the first sign of a need for pitching next year. Then you have Justin Dunn, who's just a guy who couldn't even hit water falling out of a boat in the big leagues, but actually had a pretty solid AAA season, didn't walk too many guys. Well, Kyle Funkhauser is a guy who had a bad AAA season. He was a guy who I thought was going to end up in the big leagues this year, but just didn't really ever give me a reason for me to do that, so he just spent the whole year in AAA. Probably won't be back next year. And then there's Ron Marinaccio, who, last but not least here, definitely a very interesting guy. He had a very, very good season in the minor leagues. He's a Toms River North Mariner, Delaware Blue Hen guy, New Jersey guy. We signed him in the offseason. He shoved in AA, so we called him up to AAA, and he hasn't given up a single run as the closer in 19 innings here in AAA Louisville. Got a major boost to his ratings here this year. Honestly, looking at him to be an opening day roster guy in Season 4 in 2025. So with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Cincinnati Reds franchise here on MLB The Show 22, the Minor League Update Edition. I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I am saying absolutely nothing at all.